Teacher talk refers to the way teachers speak to their students in a modified or simplified way to match their level of understanding. It's like how you would talk differently to a 4-year-old, your father, or your best friend when discussing the same topic. You may use simple vocabulary words or even slow down when you talk to your first grade students, but use a bit more complicated words and talk much faster when you talk to your colleagues, right? Now, according to the learner, teachers need to consider adjusting their teacher talk. Good teacher talk involves qualities like repetition, using simpler grammar and vocabulary, using signpost expressions, elaborating on information, asking questions for clarification, and giving students time to respond. So let's take a look at them in detail. Now imagine you're trying to learn a new song. You listen to it once, maybe twice, and then try to singing. Do you remember all the words? Probably not. But if you keep listening and singing along, eventually you'll know it by heart. The same goes for learning English. Now, teachers can use repetition effectively in their teacher talk to help learners understand or emphasize its importance. Teachers can use signal phrases such as, "Let me say that again," or, in other words, to help learners catch the repetition. The second rule is using the reduced grammatical form. Now, this refers to the idea of making complex linguistic elements easy to understand. Now, using simpler grammar structures offer numerous benefits for English learners, especially in the early stages of their journey. And now here are some suggestions. First, use shorter sentences. Break down complex ideas into shorter sentences helps students understand the structure and meaning more easily. Second, avoid using complex verb tenses. Stick to simpler verb tenses like present simple or past simple rather than using more advanced tenses like present perfect or future continuous. Third, use basic sentence structures. Stick to subject, verb, object sentence structures to make it easier for students to follow along. Lastly, provide clear explanation. Use simple and straightforward language to explain grammar concepts, avoiding jargon or technical terms that might confuse students. Now, this is especially important for levels 1 and 2 students. And one important thing to note is that we should not dumb down the content we teach to students. Using simpler grammar doesn't mean sacrificing rich vocabulary or authentic language. So it's finding a balance between comprehensible and learning opportunity. The next strategy in teacher talk is using simpler vocabulary. Again, this is a crucial strategy, especially for level 1 and 2 students. Complex words, including idioms, can overload learners' cognitive abilities, making understanding and remembering difficult. So simpler vocabulary allows students to grasp the meaning effortlessly, facilitating information processing and retention. Using simpler vocabulary helps students understand the teacher's instruction and explanations more easily, especially for learners who are still developing their English language skills. And here are some of the examples. Please read them when you have a chance. Now, one thing to note is that using simpler vocabulary does not imply talking down to learners. It's more about tailoring your language to the current level while still exposing your students to rich vocabulary in context. Next, signpost expressions. Now, signpost expressions are transitional words or phrases that guide learners' attention to the structure of an utterance. Some of the examples of signpost expressions are: first, let's discuss. Next, we will explore. Moving on to, now let's consider. Lastly, we'll examine. Now, signpost expressions signal transitions, introductions, and summaries, making your lessons more organized and easier to follow. Now, again, this is especially important for students who are still developing language. Right, elaboration. Now, elaboration in instruction refers to the process of expanding on key information or concepts to help learners understand them more deeply and meaningfully. Now, it goes beyond simply repeating or rephrasing what you initially said. Instead, it involves providing additional details, examples, explanations, and connections to existing knowledge. So here's an example of a teacher using an elaboration in their instruction. Now in this example, the teacher starts by introducing the concept of a front and then proceeds to elaborate on it. The teacher provides a definition and then offers examples of plants that have fronds, such as ferns and palm trees. The teacher further describes the physical characteristics of a frond, comparing it to feather to help students form a mental image. Finally, the teacher suggests using visual aids like pictures to enhance understanding. You get the idea, right? Clarification questions. Now, these questions are used by teachers to ensure that students understand the information being presented. Now, when checking students' understanding, we should avoid overly directive questions that lead to simple yes or no questions. For example, if we simply ask students, "Do you understand this?" English learners may not share that they don't understand the content because they don't want to be embarrassed. Now, what we can do is asking open-ended questions and asking students to explain the concepts in their own words. For example, I can use questions like, Jamie, can you explain this concept in your own words? Sam, what's the main lesson we learned today? Using think, pair, share is another great way to use in a classroom. We can have students discuss their understanding with a partner before sharing with the class, promoting both individual reflection and peer learning. Now, clarification allows us to identify areas where students might be confused and address them immediately. This prevents misunderstandings and ensures everyone is on the same page. Wait time. Now, English learners need additional time to translate, understand, formulate, and organize their thoughts in their second language. Now, studies by Mary Budd Rowe suggest effective wait time ranges from 3 to 5 seconds, with further benefits observed at 7 to 10 seconds, depending on question type and learner demographics. Now, the actual time given by the teacher on average was between zero point 0.7 and 1.4 seconds. So how would English learners feel in this situation? Wait time also removes the pressure and allows for more relaxed participation, reducing anxiety and improving learning outcomes. So think about the time you give to your students. How long do you wait after you ask a question?